is it possible to make a small one-bedroom apartment housing 2 people, multiple hobbies, a work-from-home setup, and a cat not cluttered, all without completely depriving it of its character? Laszlo and Esther, the owners of this apartment, reached out to me with this exact problem, which isn't helped by the fact that they're also planning on having their first child soon too. So seeing as upsizing is something that would cause them significant financial pressure and stress, I decided to take it upon myself to show you how to turn a space like this into a dream home, all within a reasonably small budget of just $5,000 US. Located in arguably the most beautiful city in Hungary, Budapest is the nation's capital and also the most expensive place to live. Consisting of just 4 rooms, this apartment is largely characterized by Laszlo and Esther's shared passion of books and board games, with various types of shelving and cabinetry loosely forming a media unit to house these beloved possessions, as well as their TV, games console, and Laszlo's growing Lego collection, which in his very words is starting to drive his wife Esther a little bit mad. This space also houses Laszlo's software engineering work setup that's tucked away in the corner of their living room right by the balcony door, which is where Esther keeps her plant collection out on the balcony itself that's appropriately netted for the safety of their cat Mitzi, a 7-year-old foundling who loves lounging around and accompanying them both when they're doing a little bit of gaming. In this room, they also have a furniture setup consisting of a relatively affordable IKEA armchair, sofa bed, and coffee table, where you'll also notice Esther's love for sewing and knitting, which she does outside of her job as a pharmacist. And above this, you'll notice yet more of Laszlo's Lego collection, in some glass IKEA display cabinets above the sofa. Over on the other side of the room, there's the kitchen, with a bunch of open shelving for pantry items, as Esther loves cooking, as well as the dining table, which is also, all importantly, their board game station, which crucially is at least 90 centimeters wide and long enough to squeeze around 7 people. The entryway importantly connects the living area to the other 2 rooms of the home, and it houses 2 small closets as well as some shoe storage and bench seating. And from this room you can access their bathroom, which also houses their washing machine, as well as their bedroom. In here you'll find yet more of Laszlo's Lego collection finding its way onto the walls, as well as some additional parts of their shared library. However, one thing that Laszlo loves, which is in stark contrast to Lego, is paragliding, which he frequently enjoys alongside his wife Esther, practicing a skill that I imagine took years of training, patience, and bravery to develop. Because of this, their inherited wardrobe is largely occupied by his paragliding gear, and in conjunction with all the other hobby items that make up their incredibly vibrant downtime, this apartment is starting to feel its strain. Laszlo and Esther are beginning to feel like it's time for this space to mature and develop alongside their relationship, as they start to consider the prospect of children. So the question is, how would you optimize this space to provide room for a child whilst refining its aesthetic, maintaining its functionality, and keeping the character of all of their vibrant interests? To get things started, I asked them both to send across their favourite images of design styles that they both really like, where they both seem to be keen on bright and warm Scandi spaces, with Esther leaning towards richer, busier boho spaces, and Laszlo towards cleaner, sleeker, contemporary ones. However, the one thing that they can both agree on is that they don't want a space that is cold, so maintaining warmth through colour and material choices is going to be crucial. The first things to fix in the living area are the walls, doors, and dining area, as right off the bat, one thing that is making this apartment feel cluttered is the colour palette, as on top of their treasured possessions, the statement green walls and multiple shades of wood make this space feel a little bit overwhelming. By repainting the walls a warm, slightly off-white, this takes attention away from them while retaining warmth and making the space feel brighter. And by adding this white space around their possessions, it draws focus to the items that we want to bring attention to, which is a common strategy in galleries and in graphic design. Additionally, the cherry-stained dining set, doors, and architraves clash with the other tones of wood that are in the room too, and in spaces which already have a lot going on, mixing timbers is probably something that we want to avoid in order to stop the space feeling cluttered. Additionally, a large portion of the dining table is also very difficult to access due to its location squeezed between the kitchen shelving and the living room cabinetry, which projects an overcrowded aesthetic across the room, communicating that this is not a comfortable place to sit at, despite not requiring regular use. To remedy this, simply by rotating its location 90 degrees and adding in a storage bench, it optimizes the amount of accessible seating by placing it against the wall, and by using a laminate tabletop on top of steel legs, it provides enough space for a person's feet to slide in comfortably and onto the bench. And what this does is create a tidier look that also frees up accessibility all around the table's surface, so that it now can be easily utilized as part of the kitchen, whilst also providing enough space to spread out on for other activities like work, sewing, or Lego building. Next to this, despite providing a decent amount of storage, the cabinets that make up their media unit are a little bit disjointed, which does contribute towards a sense of clutter in the space. But by simply continuing this storage bench along the wall and adding a row of wall-mounted cabinets above it, this creates one coherent, colourful datum that provides a ton of storage for books and board games. That could be bookended itself by a set of full-height cabinets aligning with this smaller part of the room that serves to visually reinforce it as a separate space and provide concealed storage for messier office or hobby-related items. This area of the living room that houses Laszlo's workspace also suffered from feeling a little bit cluttered, as there's no real storage for office items other than a set of IKEA drawers and an inaccessible corner housing only Mitzi's litter tray and a work bag. As Laszlo and Esther mentioned in their email that they have a joiner friend that they both know, a new desk could be visually integrated into these tall cabinets using plywood, a material that's warm, sustainable, and relatively inexpensive that also could be used as a feature material for the open shelving and dining benches, creating an incredibly inexpensive solution that almost anyone can DIY when getting it cut to size from a local hardware store. Then, by installing a track curtain that extends from the other side of the room, this also would naturally section this area off as its own little space, which would not only act as a curtain for the living room window, but also as some visual privacy and acoustic separation for anyone wanting to use this as a workspace during the day. Or, should it be repurposed at a later date, it could also function as a flexible sleeping area for a young child or guests. Over by their current sofa, one thing that immediately stands out to me is the light being blocked from reaching the entryway by the display cabinets, making the room feel darker, smaller, and a bit more oppressive. Despite these being a great functional solution, by relocating them and reserving this as a gallery wall, it provides a dedicated zone for family photos, art, or even their posters. Again, creating order and cohesion by placing items of similar groupings together, rather than scattering them around the house, which helps to make it feel less cluttered, and it makes the experience of enjoying imagery much more intentional by placing it in a prominent location. Then, by reserving some of the budget for updating their living room furniture, this could dramatically up the coziness factor, as the shape of this room is just calling out for a large statement piece sofa with a chaise to soften the room's abrupt corners. And when paired with a larger rug, it helps to delineate the lounge space from the other areas of the room and reduce the amount of separate and disjointed items that occupy it. And personally, despite thinking that budget sofa beds definitely have their place, I'd much rather sleep on a more comfortable sofa or a quality air mattress if given the choice, especially as sofa beds often come with aesthetic compromises too. But finally, over in the kitchen, by extending the existing cabinetry all the way up to the ceiling and upgrading to a larger integrated fridge freezer, this adds storage and allows this space to seamlessly blend in with the rest of the room when pairing it with matching cabinet fronts, which is especially important for creating a refined aesthetic in an open plan living area like this one, turning a somewhat previously jumbled room into an incredibly coherent whole. But before I reveal the finished design, we're not quite done yet, as we still need to tackle the entryway, which is the very first thing that welcomes you into a home, and a space that I think is often criminally overlooked. This space is a challenge because there's no windows, and again, the space feels a little bit cluttered due to the furniture being somewhat disjointed, as well as the tops of the cupboards having little crowns of stacked boxes, which is something that we're all definitely guilty of doing. In a space like this, mirrors and lighting can go a long way in completely transforming a room's perceived size, and this can be done while increasing storage through mirrored ceiling height cabinetry adjacent to the front door, which moves the visual bulk away from the route to the living room, helping to draw you through and disguising the storage in its entirety. And at the base of furniture like this, if you have pets, you can even create exciting spaces for them to play and hide away in by placing items like their litter trays and beds inside. In order to make this space feel as welcoming as possible, we also need it to feel as wide and as generous as possible. So to do this, a long bench could be installed using plywood to create an incredibly luxurious seating area that can swallow a mountain of shoes. Finally, over in the bedroom, this space does feel more ordered than the rest of the apartment due to the colour palette being more restrained and the fact that everything is ordered and adequately spaced apart. However, despite this, I think there's a lot more that we can get out of this room to make it a home that they can truly grow with. Their current bed needs to remain accessible from both sides as Esther is a really light sleeper. So despite this, by removing the bedside tables, the bed can be brought closer to the wardrobe in order to place their chest of drawers right next to the window. By doing this, when equipping it with a mirror above, this provides a dressing area with adequate light for Esther. But more importantly, this also frees up enough space at the foot of the bed for another entire work area. This space in fact could function as a restriction-free Lego station with multiple shelves and cabinets for displaying models above it where Laszlo can revel in his hobby without necessarily imposing it on the rest of the home, while providing flexibility between the two rooms for remote work, which is an important consideration when working in the same space as small children. Of course, doing this leaves enough space at the very foot of the bed for a future crib, and as for Laszlo's paragliding gear, this could be seamlessly stored out on the patio in a sealed outdoor storage bench equipped with a desiccant dehumidifier to keep his gear dry and create storage in their wardrobe for more clothing. So after a little designing, we repainted the living room, added storage and seating, and created a whole second workspace and room for a crib. So all that's left is to see what this looks like. So with my experience in computer-aided design and architectural visualization, it's time to bring this entire design to life. Despite being entirely conceptual, this design is completely attainable, and the seemingly small changes to the layout of this apartment completely change the way that this home is experienced, by adding so much more low-level storage which is disguised as seating, which makes it feel so much more inviting. As planning for a future with a baby is such a huge lifestyle change, for some it can feel like a massive sacrifice both financially and socially. However, with this design, I wanted to show you that it is possible to have your cake and eat it, by even enriching the experience of your current home whilst making more space to accommodate a child. And what's even better is that it's entirely possible to make this happen on a pretty slim budget. But as a relatively new parent myself, the real reason behind this whole exercise is to show you how you can be liberated from huge financial pressure by making a small space work through design, so you can actually enjoy your time as parents in a carefully considered small home that you can be truly proud of.